My kids suffered, both because they didn't see me for a month. It ended up being a month and a half. I suffered. I suffered expense. I suffered pain. I suffered every which way. And she got off with, don't do that again. So she learned a very valuable lesson. Her lesson was that I could pretty much say and do whatever I want, make him nuts, use the court as a tool, and not worry about it. If it goes my way, great. If it doesn't go my way, nothing's going to happen to me. In the years since, she's used the police department, she's used the court system, she's used attorneys, she's used the school to try and alienate the children from me, to try and get people's opinion of me, for whatever reason, soured, to try and sway the children's view of Rocco. 48 years old. Started my divorce in 2001. Got divorced in 2005. 2 children, 14 and 10 years old now. 4 years old and 10 months old when this all began. This is the only place in my life where the threat of going to jail exists. I am, like I said before, I'm 48 years old. I have never been arrested in my childhood, in my young adult life. Not until I was 40 years old and getting divorced were handcuffs ever put on me. And it was for fraudulent allegations. And I had to defend myself, because it wasn't that I was innocent until proven guilty. It was I was absolutely guilty and I needed to prove my innocence, which is part of the problem with the whole process. Part of the problem is any woman can make any accusation that she wants, and you have to defend yourself. And the courts react and the police react and everybody reacts as if you did it, which is disturbing, because it goes against everything that I was taught as a kid about how this country operates. First time that I was arrested was because she accused me of hitting her. Cops came, they separated us, and immediately I am this evil villain. And I was dressed pretty much like I am now. I was in a suit, I was going to work. So I'm explaining to one police officer what happened. And so he's listening to the story. They switch. So the other cop comes out and he's ready to take my head off. She told them that I hit her and knocked her to the ground with my youngest son in her arms. And then that I grabbed her. And he didn't tell me this until after I told him my version of the story. Then when they got together, they realized that her version changed between the two of them. Mine was exactly the same. And they actually called in and to let the desk sergeant know that they really didn't want to arrest me. But I had to hire an attorney. I had to defend myself. I had to defend my reputation. I had to defend against the fact that it was in a police blotter. I had to defend myself against accusations. I had to look at my mother, who came to bail me out that day. Who's never seen me in a situation like that. At the time she was 70, so there's my 70-year-old mother looking at me getting walked into a courtroom with my hands behind my back with cuffs on. The hurt in her face, the disappointment in her face, the pain in her face, I think was greater than when my father died. I couldn't look at her. It's just one of those things that you don't forget and you don't forgive. near my ex-wife's house at the time was a Dunkin' Donuts. My usual routine would be stop at this Dunkin' Donuts before I went to the house to pick the kids up for school, because they were still on vacation. As I'm walking into the Dunkin' Donuts, it was a wintry day, and the glass was all fogged in, and I saw a little kid drawing pictures in the frosted glass. And I'm laughing to myself. I said, boy, that kid looks just like my son. I opened the door. It was my son. Both of my sons and my ex-wife. And she starts getting upset. Why are you here? Why are you here? I'm here to get coffee, like I always do, before I take them to school. You can't be around them, but I'm in a public place. She calls the police. I'm like, I don't understand what's going on. The police come. They separate us. Not that we were fighting or yelling. She just got upset and ran into her car, and the kids are crying. Again, benefit the children. Kids are crying. And the police questioned me, grilled me. Why was I there? I was like, what are you talking about? Why am I there? As if I was stalking or violating some court order. So I had to explain to them in great detail my everyday trip, because I don't live near my ex-wife's house, so there would be no real reason for me to be at that Dunkin' Donuts, except it was exactly the path that I took at the times that I take to go from my house to that house. I had my children taken away from me for over a month, and I didn't know they were taken away from me. She booked a trip to the Dominican Republic that she was going to take the kids, but it was supposed to be my week for the trip. So in order to prevent me from taking the kids so that she could take them away, she had planned it out so that I would lose custody the Friday I was supposed to take the kids. And the reason that they were in Dunkin' Donuts that morning is she knew, because I had called the day before saying that I'll be there that morning to pick up the kids. She didn't know that I would stop at that Dunkin' Donuts. She was hiding the kids. She was purposely not being home. When the judge saw that, he said, well, obviously I'm going to give you back your visitation schedule. I'm like, oh, good. That was it. There's no consequence for her actions. There's no jail for her. There's no fine. There's no penalty. There's no fee. There's no losing the children for a month. There's none of that. Now, both children are going to be separately seeing therapists for slightly different reasons between the two, but all stemming from their mother's desire to alienate me. Right now, we're contemplating a custody battle. Problem with that is the level of proof that I'd have to come up with. See, I can't just make an accusation, point a finger, and watch the fun. If I go in and make an accusation, I have to prove it. I can't just say, oh, you did this. I have to have documented proof of everything. Therapists. So it means subjecting the children to examinations, cross-examinations, therapists, with no guarantee of result. No guarantee. And nothing but consequence. Because I know going in, if I point the finger of blame and I don't win, it will come back 100 times worse on me and them. So when people sit there and say, oh, well, you should just say this or you should just do that. You can't. Because you can't trust the system is going to look at you objectively. Two of my closest friends are divorce attorneys. And they're wonderful for advice. And they try and stay objective. And they tell you, you got no shot. If for some reason you're not making your payment. Now, I'll say it this way. Are there fathers out there that are purposefully not paying? Sure there are. Of course there are. Are there more fathers out there who are having a hard time paying? Yeah. Why? Take a guy like me. I'm a commission salesperson. Because that's where you're going to earn a six-figure income. No doubt about it. Problem is, you don't always earn that six-figure income. It's not a steady flow of cash coming in. There's a lot of hours. I, right now, am basically working 7 days a week. 12, 15-hour days. Because you always need to be available in case somebody says, hey, meet with me. Great. Doesn't always work out. You have dry spells. You try hard to not have them, but you do. So what happens? You have to start making decisions when less money is coming in. Who's getting paid? Who's not getting paid? Who can afford to wait a few more days? You know, if the lights are getting shut off today, then you got to pay for the lights. If it means my kids are going to be here this weekend, and I need to make sure I can heat the house and have lights in the house, because on the back end, the threat is if I don't have a suitable place for them to live, they can't come here. So on the one hand, you have to make sure that the lights are on, the heat is on, there's food on the table, there's clothes on their backs. But if you only have enough money to do that, the court would rather, and I've been told this, would rather you pay her. Fair and equitable distribution does not exist in New York State. Accountability on the part of the mother receiving money does not exist. There's nothing in the system that says, tell us what you spent. At least if you got food stamps, they make sure you're not buying beer or drugs with it. She can, and this is what I was told, she can go buy fur coats, she can buy crack, she can buy whatever she wants with the money that you give her. There's nothing you can do about it. That needs to change. If you're going to stick me and other fathers for heavy amounts of money, there should be accountability where that money goes. Otherwise, I should be allowed to pull the money. Probably what's different for me than some other guys is that my children are, in one sense, children of privilege. I don't come from money. I never did. Hard-working family. My father cut grass. My mother was a seamstress. That's it. And they did very well for what they did. My ex-wife came from money. And not a little bit of money. So there's wealth and privilege on that side. She lives in a $2 million home with an in-ground pool that she put in after the $2 million. One of the best areas in Westchester. Best school system. Everything's there. There's no fear ever, if my payments stopped today, that those children would suffer 1 ounce of pain. Not one. There's income. There's wealth. There's a living maid. There's probably $300,000 worth of automobiles in the driveway. It's nice. I am accountable for everything. Every time I go to court, I have to fill out a net worth statement. So I have to disclose, whether I want to or not, everything that I do with my money. How much I'm paying on either rent or a mortgage and gas and food for the kids and dry cleaning and laundry and video games and movies. I have to account for every penny that I earn, and I earn it. Yet, she doesn't have to account for any money that I give her. New York doesn't care how broke you get as long as you're making that payment. They don't care if you have to tell your kids that you can't go to dinner with them tonight because you have to work, when reality is you don't have a fucking penny in your pocket to take them to McDonald's. They don't care. It's not important to them. So that goes back to, where is the best interest of the child? Isn't the best interest of the child to make the payment of the system equitable and fair? Or is it just, let's give her as much money as possible, let's destitute as many fathers as possible, oh, and then we could put them on a website and call them deadbeat dads? My kids used to tell me that that's what their mom used to refer to me as to her friends. Oh, he's a deadbeat dad. How many deadbeats pay $100,000? Plus all the money that was done before that, the first 5 years. If I didn't have to spend money for a house, if I didn't have to spend money for bicycles or Xbox games or any of that, I'd still pay the 25%. But I do have them, so I do have to spend that money. So now between the federal government and that, 50% of my income is gone. Right off the bat, without even trying, more than 50%. So that leaves me with half of what I make, less than half of what I make, to do all the same things. To put food on the table, clothes on their back. Doesn't work. The math doesn't work. It never adds up. It never does. So I have to live at a lower level to survive. The courts push you, the attorneys push you. The attorneys increase the animosity. The court creates the frustration. And from my point of view, because I guess I was the target, it creates more anger. So the potential for violence is absolutely greater. You can't tell me that this system doesn't promote violence. To not be able to pick up your kids for an hour and take them to McDonald's, a movie, a restaurant, and have chicken fingers and a hamburger. You feel like what they're calling you. I've done everything that I can to make sure that doesn't happen, but that happens. I've not taken them to dinner. I've not picked them up from school because I don't have the gas in the car or the money to pick them up that day, so I make an excuse. I can't come tonight, I have to meet a client. I'll pick them up tomorrow because I know I'm getting paid tomorrow. And then I'll be able to put gas in the car. How is living like that good for them? How is me not being able to be with them good for them? How is losing one parent good for them? Are there situations where a parent should go away? Sure. There's plenty of parents that are hurtful. There are plenty of parents that are on drugs, one or the other, or both. But if you have two parents that love their kids, that you assume both want the best for their kids, that it all should be looked at individually. My circumstance is different than yours. Mine's different than somebody else's. Somebody else is different than somebody else. We're all different. We all have different incomes. We all have different abilities. To blanket everything in the system with just a percentage and taking nothing else into consideration is wrong. Every dad that I know that's like me is like me. They're broke. They're struggling. They put on a good face for their kids, but their heart's breaking every day. Every day. The system doesn't recognize that. Courts don't recognize that. I don't know a dad whose world isn't in disarray with this. I don't know anybody that's happy about their situation. My ex-wife's relentless. Wherever an opportunity exists to drag me to court, justified or not, and it's generally not, she does. Oh well, she got thrown out of court the last time we were there. Tried to have me, which I don't understand, for 8 months, she's been getting more than what she's supposed to be getting. She files a complaint in January that I'm not paying. I work at a job where they take the money right out of my check. I don't write a check to support. They're taking above $850 above the agreed upon amount to pay back liens, judgments. There are no arrears, there are no current arrears. So I'm trying to figure out, why am I going to court? For a willfulness hearing, which potentially, it says in big letters, you know, if you don't respond or if you're found guilty, you can go to jail. Go to court, spend hours of your day preparing the day before, getting all of the information and documentation together that they want, to sit for 3-4 hours waiting to go in front of a magistrate, just to spend 5 minutes when they realize that there's no reason for you to be there. And she's not told, this is frivolous, this is silly, this is unnecessary, you'll be in serious trouble if you do this again. The judge was actually looking for her to come up with something. The magistrate, I'm sorry. It was, why are you here? I want to get the money that I'm due. Go to support. What are the current arrears? There are none. Okay. Are there any arrears? No. There are money judgments. Oh, there's money judgments. Oh, okay. Those are being paid. The magistrate looks at her and says, okay, why are you here? I just want the money that I'm due. Okay, well, apparently that money's coming. Is there anything else that you're looking to get? What do you mean? Do you have any medical bills that you want to hit them with? Do you have, I just went through 3 or 4 things. Do you have this? Do you have that? Well, you know, if she didn't have the idea before, now she does. No, I don't have any of that. The judge dismissed it. I mean, the magistrate dismissed it. She had no choice, because she couldn't find anything to throw in front of me. And she explained to her very politely that if there's something that she wants to bring in, this is what you need to do, and have it prepared this way, and then we'll present it, and I'm sure we'll find a way to get him to pay. At no point did anybody say to me, I'm sorry, we wasted your time. She'll have to pay for your attorney. She'll have to compensate you for your time here, away from your job. No, it's, oh well, we'll see you next time. Better luck. That's the system here. There's no balance, there's no equality, there's no justice. Everybody has their agenda. And the only time you get out of something is if it doesn't meet the agenda, or it's too glaring and they really can't do something too stupid because they want to keep their job. So every once in a while, you win. I guarantee you, mark my words, it is the end of April. By the end of the summer, there'll be another summons in my mailbox for something. Not money, for something. Could be money. She might try again. There'll always be something, as long as they allow that. As long as they allow them to act irresponsibly. As long as the magistrates and the attorneys have their personal agendas. As long as support doesn't care about you. And I've been to support, I can't tell you how many times, to try and work things out, and you're a bad guy. You're, you're a bad guy, period. They look at you with disdain. They look at you with disgust. Like if they could scrape you off the bottom of their shoes, they would. And I sit there and I say, I know I make more money than you. I know I drive a better car. And I know I pay my bills. So how am I, in your eyes, a piece of garbage? Well, because the system says I am. Okay. That's what they want. And there's a lot of fathers that just succumb to it because it's overbearing. It's overwhelming. There's a lot of it. And some guys can't fight it. And they just cave in and fall to it and become exactly what they want them to be. And there's probably hundreds of guys in jail right now that don't really need to be there. The problem is that most guys get destroyed because they believe what they're told and nobody tells them the rules ahead of time. So they walk in and they just get destroyed because the assistant DAs, when you get arrested, well, they're all about just settling and getting you into a wife-beating program, which I kind of got the name wrong. Because when I went there, I asked, are you going to teach me how to beat her so that I don't get arrested? Or they didn't really like that. I thought it was funny. But I had to go through 3 months of that with the potential for 3 years of that until I actually went to trial. And the judge threw it out because she changed the story 4 different times on the stand. The people that made the rules are the women's groups. The decisions that come, the laws that are created, are forced into action by women's groups. Not that I don't think things should be fair or that everything should go to the father. I just think it should be even. Level playing field from day one.